Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is the final step of dealing with the aftermath of the floods that we've recently had and trying to save my privacy trees and moving some other trees to a better position. Sorry if you can hear some squeaking in the background. Rafa has just decided to chew on a squeaky toy. But I was trying to use all the dirt from the digging of the trench, which you can see just beside me as I'm putting this garden bed together. But it was taking forever to go through that soil and pull out all the glass and everything sharp that is kept for some reason in the topsoil on this property. And we also needed some soil to level out the ground to put the shed in down the track. So I ended up using most of the soil that remained for that and just buying a couple of bags of cheap soil to move these trees in. And I'd originally planted these few trees that you're about to see down the side alley of the house that leads to the courtyard. Just because I was so desperate to get privacy trees in when I first moved in, and I didn't really put a lot of thought into the width that they would grow to and how that would obscure the pathway. And they grew a lot faster than I was expecting, so they became inconvenient pretty quickly. And when it rains, because these are immature trees, they do tend to get weighted down by the rain, so it can make passing through that side alley quite difficult. So what I did was mounded up some soil, put some blood and bone and some slow release fertilizer, and this stuff that I'm about to put on now, it helps get rid of curl grubs, which come from black beetles, and they can help break down organic matter in your compost, but they can also really damage the roots of your plants and particularly of your grass. So I don't really want them eating these trees because their root balls are already small given the size of the trees because of the sheer volume of water we've had. And I don't want these plants any more traumatized than they already are. As you can see, I was wearing a microphone on this day, but for some reason the mic wasn't working. So it's just been lurching from one problem to the next lately with the mics. But hopefully we'll get this sorted and get back to normal videos soon. And hopefully we are also done at the end of this video dealing with the aftermath of the flood. The weekend when I was moving these trees and mounding everything up was incredibly windy. So I was trying to use bricks and anything I could find to stabilize them. But in the end, I managed to get a few done on the first day. And when I came out the morning of the second day, most of them had completely blown away because the winds that we had overnight were out of control. So it did require a little bit more staking to get everything stabilized and under control. If I had used more of the native soil that came from the trench, they would have held a little bit better, just because that soil just seems to create almost like a clay-like seal, except it's not clay, it's very sandy. It just holds moisture really, really well, whereas the bagged soil, not so much. This gives you a little bit of an idea about what the aftermath the next morning looked like. So yes, the garden needs a bit of tidy up anyway, but you can see things were blown all the way across the backyard and trees were fallen over and it was just a disaster zone. So I decided to go and get the last of the stakes that I had and to pop them in to try and help hold the trees up. And while they may not be perfectly straight, at least they have stayed put in against all the winds. And we usually get really, really significant winds as we transition into spring. So those supports will stay in, I think, for at least 6 months. I didn't want to lose any of my lamium. I knew I wasn't going to be able to keep it all, but this was from 4 or 5 original plants and it had spread beautifully and it was creating such a beautiful ground cover and doing a great job of suppressing all the hideous succulent style weeds that we get in this area. So I did just fairly roughly pull out chunks of lamium and embed them on the top of the new mounded up tree beds as I continued on, and so hopefully they will survive and not get transplant shock, and they will fill in, and 5 plants will become a lot more than that and cover this whole area in this beautiful kind of silvery green leaf that produces these lovely soft pink purple flowers. Finally, I was down to the last tree to move, and you can see how annoying these trees are through this area, which is quite narrow. So as soon as you try and bring a wheelbarrow through here or anything, it just becomes impossible. And I did think about letting these trees grow up and then kind of pruning them so they created almost like an arbor to go under, but they were so inconvenient that I just figured if I'm going to the trouble of digging up all the other trees to try and save them and mounding them up, then I might as well do the 4 that were along here and try and just make my life easier coming through here. With the last tree in and staked up and hopefully stabilized enough that it could get through a couple of days of pretty windy weather, it was time to focus on getting the lamium into place and working on extending this garden bed. At the moment, there is a huge amount of stuff that is waiting to go in the garden shed that is yet to be constructed, and it's all just been sitting on the lawn for 12 months and it's become a weedy, grassy, horrible snake pit mess. And before it becomes baby snake season, I really want to get that sorted. It was an area where there was a large tree overhanging the house when we first moved in that we removed, and I would like to turn that into a garden bed and also find a way to facilitate the water flow down the side of the house and into the trench that we've been working on in the last few videos. The other thing I wanted to do was slightly move some of these plants forward. So in my desperation to cover this hideous fence and to give myself some privacy, I think I planted things a bit closer to the fence than they should have been. So this is a Forsythia Linwood Gold, and it had produced some interesting branches during the course of the year, and I was only just getting around to chopping them back now. So as I was mounding everything up, I thought it was time to dig this one out and one of the snowball viburnums and to shift it forward a little bit and put it on a mound as well to protect it from the density of our soil and any waterlogging that could become an issue down the track. And that would also let me extend the garden bed using the recycled brick barrier, and just try and get it to all look uniform. I know that over a not very long period, these mounds will probably flatten down to quite insignificant berms, but I tried, and there is a limit to the amount of time and energy I was willing to put into this project. It had already taken way more time than I'd intended, so I was adamant that this was absolutely the last weekend I was working on this project. Finally, it's all done, and now I just need to source some rocks to put in the trench and more mulch to cover all the trees with so that the soil is protected. But we're starting to see the very first signs of spring. The temperatures are not warming up at all, but the peach trees are starting to bloom because perhaps they've got the wrong idea. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with us, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.